Chapter 8. "I knows this story," Phoenix whispered, staring at the illustration that Zohar was holding up, his eyes wide. "Yeah, our mommy told it to us the other night," Spring added, gazing over her sister's shoulder. "Tells them, Phoenix." Phoenix nodded, her dark hair swirling around her. Rome, Alice, and the other dragonlings scooted closer to Phoenix and her twin sister Spring. "Once, long, long ago, there was a magical land called Halloween," Phoenix started to say. "It's where the pumpkins comes from," Spring interjected. Phoenix nodded before continuing. "They's called jack-o'-lanterns because the first one was named Jack. He was the captains of the guards for the queen," she explained. "The queen turned him into a pumpkin because he tried to leave. He fell in love with a girl," Spring excitedly added. "Did he see her colors like Balin can see Alice's?" Jabir asked, in a curious tone. "I don't know. Mommy didn't tell us about colors," Phoenix admitted, after a brief pause. "So, what happened?" Zohar demanded, waving the paper. "What's that got to do with the babies?" "Each year, the queen searches for Jack and the girl that he fell in love with," Phoenix said. "But what's that got to do with the babies?" Jade demanded, with a shake of her head. "They's Jack's and the girl's babies," Phoenix explained, before she shook her head. "Let's me tell you the story the way my mommy did." "Does we get a snack while you tells it?" Jabir asked, with a hopeful look. "No," Spring snapped in annoyance. "Now, be quiet, so Phoenix can tell you the story." "Yous don't have to be so bossy. I's just asking 'cause I's hungry," Jabir grumbled, with a pout as he sat down and folded his arms across his chest. "You's always hungry," Rome teased, scooting over so that he was sitting next to Jabir. "Alice is bossy too," Zohar leaned over and whispered. "I thinks it's just 'cause they are girls." "Oh," Jabir mumbled. "That explains everything. I still wish we had somethings to eat." "Here, Jabir, you can have my cookie from dinner. I's was saving it for later, but I's not hungry," Alice said, carefully opening the small, colorful purse that was lying next to her before she pulled out a large cookie. "Spring, the lights!" Phoenix said, with a wave of her hand. Spring giggled and hopped up to turn off the main light in the nursery. She sprinted back and sat down next to Phoenix with a nod. Her eyes gleamed with mischief, and she rubbed her tiny hands together in anticipation. "Once, long, long ago, there's lived a queen," Phoenix said in a low voice as she rose to her feet. Her hands cut through the air as she talked. "The queen falls in love with a handsome and mighty warrior." "Her captains of the guard," Spring whispered. Phoenix nodded. "With Jack, her captains of the guard. Jack protected the queen from all kinds of monsters that tried to break into the castle, but none of them could get through the mighty doors," she dramatically stated, lifting her hands into the air as if trying to break through. "One day, Jack was protecting the door when a soft knock sounded on it. Never's before had anyone knocked on the castle door. He didn't answer it right away, though, did he, Phoenix? He made her knock again," Spring excitedly whispered. "He's made her knock 3 times before he opened the door," Phoenix stated. "But who's she?" Jade demanded. "Yeah, how did he know it was a she?" Amber complained. "He didn't at first," Phoenix admitted. "Not until he opened the door." "And there she was," Spring sighed, resting her chin on her hand. "There was who?" Zohar demanded. "This story isn't very good," Jabir complained. "I thought there'd be fighting and swords and symbiotes." "Shush! There is," Spring growled with a wave of her hand. Phoenix nodded in agreement. "Just wait," she promised. "Now, where was I?" "The knocking," Alice said with a smile. "Yes, the knocking. Jack had never had nobody knocks to get into the castle, so he wasn't too sure what's to do. Finally, on the third knock, he pulled his sword and opens the door. Phoenix paused to look around, making eye contact with each one of her captive audience before she continued. And on the other side, there was a beautiful huntress from the forest. Just like my mommy, Balin exclaimed, suddenly perking up. She was wearing a long, dark green cloaks. That's like a cape, Spring said, clapping her hands together. She had long, curly hair and carried a bows with arrows, Phoenix added. She came to confront the queen. But why? Zohar asked, confused. Because the monsters that were coming to the castle were not really monsters, Phoenix explained. They were magical beings who had been transformed by the evil queen when she got mad at them. Jack didn't know this. The huntress was the magical being's friend, and she came to make the queen change them back. But wasn't she scared? Jabir asked in a small voice. I would be scared. Phoenix shook her head. No, because she was very powerful too, she said. Likes me, Alice beamed. I'd fight the queen. Me's too, echoed the others. Jack stood staring at the huntress. Who are you, and what do you want? He demanded. I've come to defeat the queen, the huntress said. I will not let you, said Jack. Then we will fight, the huntress exclaimed. Phoenix said, turning in a circle and acting like she was pulling a bow back. But where's the symbiotes? Jabir demanded, around a mouthful of cookie crumbs. You've got to be patient, Spring growled. Phoenix paused and looked at Jabir. He mumbled a quick apology and swallowed. She refocused on her story. Days fights from one side of the hallway to the others, all day and all night, before they's finally stopped 'cause they's was tired and nobody was winnings. Jack couldn't believe how good the huntress was at fighting. What is your name, huntress? Jack demanded. I know, Spring interrupted, raising her hand in the air. It's Sally. Her name was Sally, Phoenix replied, with a dreamy smile. Sally stared back at the handsome warrior before she replied, My name is Sally. What are you called? I am Jack, captains of the guard for the queen, he responded. But why's you protect someone so evil? Sally demanded. Why do you calls her evil, Sally? Jack asked. Because she tries to harm my friends, Sally told him. But where's the symbiotes? Rome demanded. Phoenix sighed and shook her head. I's not very good at telling stories. Sally and Jack falled in love after they fought, she said, with a wave of her hand. I think you were doing a beautiful story, Phoenix, Alice said. Everyone turned and blinked at Alice in surprise. She was sitting dressed in tiny dark brown boots, brown pants, a light green shirt, and a dark green cape. Her hair, while still blonde, was now curly, and she had a play bow and arrow lying across her lap. The more Sally told Jack, the more he realized that what she said was true. She took him into the forests beyond the castle and through the forest of ghostly wolves, Phoenix whispered. The soft sound of a whimper escaped Rome. Me and my cat don't like the forest of ghostly wolves, he admitted, staring back at Phoenix. Then she took him along the river and down to the town with Auntie Abby's talking head. That's the village where all the creatures lived, Phoenix said. That's how my mommy got in there, Zohar exclaimed with a start. But what about the babies? And the symbiotes, Jabir added with a grin. Phoenix shook her head in exasperation. Okay. Jack and Sally went to the queen, and there was a big fight. The queen turned to Jack and was going to turn him into a monster, but Sally jumped in front of him and stops her. The other monsters came from the forest and the village to help, she explained. But not only them, the goddess sent some symbiotes because she could see how much Jack and Sally loved each other, Spring exclaimed, jumping to her feet and dancing around. Oh, good, Jabir laughed, with a clap of his hands. But what's about the babies? Zohar demanded again. I's getting to the babies, Phoenix said. Everybody keeps interrupting me. We learned that word from Mommy, Spring whispered. It means stopping her from telling the story. I knows what it means, Zohar growled. But I wants to know what this means, he added, waving the paper. It means the queen is coming to take the babies back to the land of Halloween so she can make them her warriors. She comes once every year when the door between the land of Halloween and here opens. She picks 3 new babies to take back with her. But she never's come for us, Zohar said, puzzled. That's 'cause she didn't knows we were here, Spring said. The queen has her minions look for new babies. We're not new no more. Her minions looks like those things Jade and I's make, Amber commented with a frown. Yous make minions? Rome asked with delight. Are they's cool? Yes, really cool. They's goes around like this. Amber and Jade replied together, making weird faces and holding their mouths open while waving their hands in the air. But they's good symbiotes. They's don't steal babies. No, we plays with them all the times, Amber said. Well, before Simba eats them ups. Can you makes more? Zohar asked suddenly with a thoughtful expression on his face. Of course, the twins said in unison. Why? 'Cause if the queen thinks she's going to get our baby cousins, then we's are going to be ready, Zohar stated. But how? Balin asked with a frown. We's need an army of minions of our own, Zohar replied. This is what we's are goings to do. The small group gathered around Zohar as he laid the illustration down on the floor and listened as he outlined what they were going to do to stop the queen from stealing the babies. Tiny heads nodded up and down in agreement. No one but Phoenix saw the 2 shadowy golden figures hovering in the corner, listening avidly to the kids planning their battle against the evil queen.